Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing my out-of-box review for the HG Build Fighters Amazing ZakuAurelius. And as you can tell, it's not quite amazing yet. The reason why I wanted to show it to you guys like this first is just to show you that you do have all the parts of just the original ZakuAurelius kit, and then the amazing parts are just all the extra parts. So I'm sure no one's gonna buy this particular kit and then want to just like throw away the extra parts and just make the original ZakuAurelius. Obviously that's not gonna make much sense, but I guess if you wanted to do it something like just one arm, have like one arm just like the big new heavy amazing arm and then one arm regular one, you could do that. You could have like two of them and have like one arm have like the right arm as like the big one and the other one have the left arm as the big one. That could be pretty cool. So anyway, just pointing out the fact that you could make two of these. I guess if you bought just this kit and then the regular kit, you could just swap the arms and do that anyway. But yeah, for anyone who may be wondering, you can keep both of the arms on there. Now here we have the amazing ZakuAurelius. So now he's got his new big buff man arms on there and he's looking pretty cool. The new parts are definitely very cool, and I was worried about them being more detailed in compared to the rest of the kits, seeing as how the rest of the kit is pretty old. But I think the details match up pretty well. They don't seem to clash too much, but the colors do clash. You will notice that the color of the arms in like the gray part for the arms is light, kind of not looks like a neutral gray, and then for the legs it's that much darker gray. So straight out of the box, that color might bother some people. I think it's not really super noticeable, but you may want to get some paint and at least paint those parts just so at least they're matching. Otherwise, the rest of the colors are just pretty average. One thing that I don't really particularly like about this kit in general is the feet. The feet look very old, and most of the design I think holds up pretty well for this being such an old high-grade kit. The feet though definitely look like they're from a super old high-grade kit, if not like even an 80s kit, because they look like just like one big block piece. So I think panel lining those will definitely help, but still not really going to help all that much. That's just the design though. Now let's quickly talk about some stickers and articulation. For the stickers, basically we only have two, this white one here and the one for the mono eye. Now that mono eye obviously you can't move. You could choose where you want to place the sticker on there. The instructions have you put it right in the center, but if you wanted you could put it somewhere else, but obviously that part in there, nothing's going to move. Some nice color separation here though, with this gray part from the inside poking through for the vents here on the chest and for on the top of the head there for the missiles. So that's pretty nice. In the stomach we have a nice bend forward and back here, pretty good. Can also bend that side to side and then turn a little bit there at the waist. Around here on the back for our kind of thruster things here for flying around in the water, you do have a seam line right down the middle of those, so that'll be fun. One of the other new parts about this kit that isn't very noticeable is actually inside the chest there, so the arm connection is actually different from the original arm connection. That's an internal part there. But our shoulder joint will allow you to bring the arm up to there, down to here like so. And then the joints in the arm here work different from the original arm. In the original arm, each one is segmented with a ball joint in between, but in this one you just have a rotating joint here at the arm, and then these two lower ones are actually connected together. They look like there's a joint, but actually there's not. And if you guys are wondering if you can use the original arm parts in here, yes you can. So it's totally up to you. These just have a little bit different detail on them, so if you don't really care too much about that, you could use just the original arm segments. Then we have a bend here at I guess what would be sort of like the elbow or wrist. You can also rotate this whole section here, because where this whole big part plugs in is where actually the claw would plug in on the original arm. So that's the part from the original arm inside there. So you're just replacing the claw with this big part and then plugging the claw into here. The claw itself does also rotate here. That's kind of for like the ag mode, how it's supposed to be like a drill, but anyway, the claws do also open up, of course, out to there. And then for the ZakuAurelius mode, these will actually come out here. Now they can't actually shoot out and fly out like the little blade boomerang things that they're supposed to be, but you can sort of fake it. And you can maybe scratch build some, I guess, if you wanted to, but they're just supposed to come out like that as just some kind of cool looking blade weapons. Down here at the hip joint, you can get that leg all the way out to the side, all the way out to the front, sort of, but because of the shape of that, it's not straight to the front, it's like to the front and to the side. So I guess if you want to do like a kicking move, you can kind of do that pretty cool like that. And then this leg is original, so like with the arm, there's an individual ball joint between each of those sections there. And then you do have a really nice bend in the knee for about 90-degree bend. And then the ankle will move forward, back, side to side, so our ankle articulation is actually pretty good here. And then up under the feet, some nice detail there as well. So overall, considering the age and simplicity of this kit, the articulation is actually pretty good. Now let's get into the other accessories. There's not really a whole lot, but we do have a few here. We have 6 of these cannon barrels. They're pretty simple here. These are for the Juagu mode, so these will just plug into kind of these guys here on the front of the claws. So you can plug in all 6 of those, 3 on each hand. And technically you're supposed to remove the claw in the center, and it's supposed to be like that, but you could obviously keep the claw in there if you want. It totally doesn't matter. And then we've got 4 of these heat rod, which are basically its tentacles here for the Agagai mode. And so you got 4 of them, so you're only supposed to use 2 on each arm. It would have been nice to have 6, so you could have 3 in each hand, but they're only supposed to go in these top 2 apparently. And this one, I guess you're always supposed to leave the claw on, but again, it doesn't matter. It's totally up to you if you wanted to take the claw off. Yeah, it's just going to be whatever. So those just plug into like that. These aren't movable. They're just fixed in this particular pose. So, but I think they do the job pretty well. I think movable will just make them harder to paint. So as they are, I think the look of them is pretty good. For a size comparison here, is compared with a just Zaku 1, another Char's mobile suit, and you can see it's about the same height. So this kit is not incredibly tall, but it is very wide and bulky. So next to just a normal mobile-looking mobile suit or like a Gundam or Jim or something like that, it is going to have a considerable amount of bulk there, especially with those new arms. Now one thing you guys may be wondering is, could you use these arms with the real grade kit? Because I think the real grade kit obviously is going to be just a much better base ZakuAurelius kit rather than the old HG. And that was my first thoughts actually when we first saw this. I thought, oh, just get that and then just use the arms on the real grade. I'm sure you could, but I'm sure you could not without doing any modification. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the real grade ZakuAurelius here to actually try it out. Someday I may have to get one. The ZakuAurelius honestly is just not really one of my favorite designs. I just really like the new arms on this one. Those are pretty badass. But just the regular ZakuAurelius, really honestly not that much into it. So that's why I've never got the real grade, but we'll have to see whenever I get around to like actually painting on this and like making a project of it. If I do decide that I maybe want to try to use them on the real grade, that is something to look into. I think you really probably wouldn't be too difficult to get them to work on there. You'd really only just have to make them to fit onto the hands, and that's kind of it. It's really not the most complicated thing, I would imagine. Maybe one of you guys have already seen that done on like some Japanese blog or something like that, or you know someone who's already tried it. If so, leave a link in the comments and I'll favorite that so people can check that out. Alright, then when it comes to downsides of the kit, probably the biggest one for me is just that it's a little bit annoying that I'm going to have to work on a lot of the seams. Of course, just the old parts. The new parts don't have any seams at all, so that's nice. But the original kit obviously does have some seams here and there. As I pointed out on the backpack, like on the top of the head, kind of, you could very easily just turn that into a panel line though. On the waist, the sides of the waist parts, there's a seam line there. Again, you could probably turn that into a panel line with very minimal effort. So seams aren't too bad, but just the overall construction of the kit is very dated, as you would expect. It is pretty minimal in terms of the detail. There's not a whole lot of details there, but hey, there's a lot of room for doing some of your own scribing if you want. You do some little scribing details here and there. You could definitely detail it up. There's a lot of space for that. So it's a really, I mean, just the base kit, the ZakuAurelius itself, not this particular version. Obviously anything P-Banda is going to be a little bit more expensive, but the base kit I think would be a great kit to work on if you want to work on doing some of your panel lining, because you do have some flat surfaces that you could work on a little bit more easier. Not too many, there's a couple. But you do have a lot of curved areas, which do make doing your own scribing, things like that, details a little bit more difficult. And then the other slightly annoying thing is just the fact that you can't use any action base with this. It's just kind of made before the action bases existed, I guess. And you really, all you have to do is just drill a hole in the bottom of it. It's really not that difficult to just make a peg hole for plugging this onto an action base if you are so inclined. I will say the other thing that it does suffer from a little bit just due to its older design is that some of the joints are a little bit loose. The arms, I think that's one reason why maybe they went with new arms for this, is because they're able to support the weight more. But the legs are obviously still to all original, and they're a little bit loose. They seem to hold up well enough, but over time and changing up the pose a bit, those leg parts are going to be very loose, so I definitely recommend doing something to tighten up those joints a little bit. So that's going to pretty much do it for this review, guys. It's a pretty simple review because honestly it's a pretty simple kit. You can really get some cool option parts with it. I love the new arms. That's pretty much all that's going to be new about it. At the list price of 1,500 yen, that's not bad for this. I think just the regular list price of the regular ZakuAurelius is like 800 yen or something like that. So considering it's like almost twice as much for just one extra runner of parts, you might think that's a little bit high. I think this probably could have been a little bit cheaper just as the list price. But then, of course, most of you guys aren't able to get this at the list price. Unfortunately, you're going to have to be paying the price of whatever it costs to get this through a third-party seller. And it's going to be closer to $20, maybe even $30 at that point. You're really going to be wondering if it's worth it for like such an old kit with just a handful of new parts. But You know, that just comes down to if it's worth it for you. I think the new arms do look really, really cool, especially if you're a big fan of like Char's color mobile suits. Obviously, this isn't technically a Char's mobile suit, but if you're a fan of like these Build Fighters amazing mobile suits, or just a fan of the Char colors, then you may like this. All in all, it's a really cool looking kit. You do have some nice options between the different weapons options that you want to use with it, so that's always good. The articulation is actually pretty good. If you can just drill a hole in there and get it up on an action base, you could get even more out of that. And I gotta say, I'm quite satisfied with the kit. So if you guys do still have any other questions or comments about this, please let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, and one more custom mod you guys may want to do is follow my lead on this one, if you feel me. Anchor arms. Thanks for watching. See you next time.